Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
ECSI fans, do you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? ECSI fans, do you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll and Big Ten preview with Riley Magnuson on November 10th, 2023. Yes, the weekend is here. Yes, you made it. Lots to talk about. Shout out to the gentlemen behind the glass, Joseph Shea, Evan Lewis, Cade Horton, Olu, and Bennett. Shout out to our new proud sponsor and partnership with WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app yet, shame on you. Go to Google Play or wherever you download your apps. Download it. WagerWire, one word. It's free. Start to get comfortable with it. Start tracking your bets. Start syncing your bets to all the sports books and casinos that are available in your area. Keep track of your ROI, how you're doing on certain teams, certain conferences, certain leagues. ECSI will be doing a lot more hands-on, one-on-one editorials, tutorials throughout November and December, and of course into 2024. And it is the season, as we are, 6 weeks away from Christmas, dare I say that. If you're looking for a little flash cash, a little side hustle, send an email to affiliates at wagerwire.com. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. Zach, Travis, and the rest of the WagerWire team will take good care of you there. So without further ado, let's bring them in from the south side of Chicago. That man, Jim Croce. I still love listening to Mr. Croce, the one and only Mr. Riley Magnuson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, my friend. Happy Friday morning. Beautiful week we've had here in the Chicagoland area, so I cannot complain here. No, it's a great morning here because we have our first official kind of crossover of a bigger crossover of college football and college basketball in the old Big Ten preview. So I have been waiting for this one here because we've obviously had Big Ten or college basketball all week long. Had a couple of good games here. Obviously, the one upset in the Big Ten world here. But now, if anyone's looked at the slate today, whether it be Big Ten or the national landscape, there's plenty of things to talk about in the college basketball world. So I am excited for this today. Obviously, plenty of other things going on here on Friday, as well as obviously at least one pretty damn big game in the Big Ten football world. So this one should be a good one. These Friday morning shows are always fun. All of our shows are always fun. But hope you had a great birthday yesterday, my friend. Had some fun yesterday on the show with the barn burner that was the Panthers and the Bears there. So had some fun there. But I hope everything was great and glad to be back with you this morning.
Yes, and a personal shout out to everyone that reached out, texts, emails, phone calls, Facebook, X, whatever, with the happy birthday wishes. My sister started the day off at like 7 a.m. on Facebook with a third or fourth grade picture of me. And then it said, if you see the Heinz 57 man, tell him a happy birthday. Yes, I turned the big 5'7". Hopefully, plenty of more of those years to come. I think you'd have been proud of me yesterday. We're trying to gain some traction. We struggled out of the gate in the college basketball scene. But we thought we found a good one. And again, as you stated, the Michigan State Stunner, the number 4 team in the country, losing to James Madison, who miraculously down 5 with 3.8 seconds, come back to go to overtime and win again yesterday. But Michigan State, I think 28-point favorites against Southern Indiana last night. But I peeled the onion back, and they were 18.5-point favorites in the first half. And as you know, I released them in the first half. And Thursday nights, I have another engagement around 7:30 every Thursday. And I'm following along on the app. And I got my thumb over the Southern Indiana score, and I'm seeing they scored 6 points in the first 6 minutes. It's like, okay. And I looked down and Michigan had 13 points. I'm like, well, okay. And then 10 minutes in, Southern Indiana still had 6 points. And Michigan had, let's say, 19. I'm like, Jesus, you're at the halfway point. You've only allowed 6 points. You're supposed to be up by 25 by now. And then it was death by 10,000 paper cuts because they had 6 points with about 7 minutes to go. I'm like, I should have this covered in cash by now. And I had to actually sweat it out. Then there was one big push. The moral of the story is we cashed the first half ticket on Michigan State. They don't cover the full game. And then I see a tweet that they broke history where they've started the year now like 1 for 20-something from three-point land. So we talk about the Saturday morning Big Ten yawners. Remember the first one to 25 wins? Michigan State in rare form already.
No, 100%. It's an offense that needs to get going, and obviously, as we talk about, and we talked about the other day, I was hoping that that upset might not come right away before we have this Friday show, because we talk about this Michigan State team every year as kind of being a slow starter, whether they're a top 10 team or unranked team. It doesn't matter. They typically come out of the gate slow, and they get it going once we get into conference play and whatnot. They, Izzo likes to front load that schedule and give a tough non-conference schedule. Obviously, this week hasn't been what you would expect as a tough non-conference schedule, but and then you kind of had that sense of despite how they had control of that game from a defensive standpoint, don't want to let that team, Southern Indiana last night, surprise you and keep them around if you're only putting up whatever, like you said, 19-6 or whatever the heck it was, 19-10, whatever it was. You got to have a little sense of urgency there, and they did have the push there. So, no, I'm not panicking quite yet on Michigan State, but obviously, I don't know who they have next, but it's a situation where they obviously need to look themselves in the mirror. They have actually they have the old Duke Blue Devils in the I think, is it in Chicago? United Center next week. So. A couple of bigger games these next couple here for Michigan State. They've got Arizona this month as well. So a couple of top 15 teams, at least as of right now, that they've got on their schedule here. So if they don't turn it around, they're going to be playing from behind in those games. And obviously the perception of them is going to change. But, obviously that's a spot they've been comfortable with, or Izzo's been comfortable with. So I think that's kind of what you're going to see, and a lot of people are going to stop believing in them by the time we hit Christmas, and then January, February, March, they're going to break out of that shell and look like the Michigan State team down the stretch that we know and love. So it's been fun already, and I'm interested to see how it goes. But they've got a lot of talent on the team, so I'm not giving up yet.
Yeah, and when you talk about Duke, who's got a game tonight against Arizona, you talk about Arizona, you talk about the Kansases of the world, the high octane offenses versus a Michigan State. Who wins the battle to dictate pace. If Michigan State can get you into a first 1-60 battle, I lean Sparties. But, if you're trying to get to, the first 1-70, 75 against a Duke in Arizona, a Kansas, someone of that ilk, Michigan State will not be that team, but they'll surprise you because they'll have one of those games where they're hitting the three, yada, yada, yada. We know, we've seen this game long enough where they start slow, they play the iron, get a feel for where they got their strengths and weaknesses, and Izzo will get them ready there. Again, such a big slate. I mean, I don't want to keep you for 2 hours here today. Quick 2 seconds on the NFL game. I didn't watch 1 second of it. I followed it, of course. Didn't have much in the high stakes fantasy world either. I had some Comets where I had to play Cole. I had some DJ Moores where I had to play DJ Moore. On the other side, not much. Chubber on the bench. It is what it is. Your thoughts on the NFL game?
Yeah, you know what? I admittedly was wrong on a couple of fronts yesterday. Missed a couple things, but pretty close. And obviously, you know what? I've been low the last year and a half, as low as anyone can possibly be on this Bears defense. But now and I still think you're going to have some spots in the right matchup where they are able to get exploited in the passing game. But you got to give credit to their run defense in Chicago these last handful of weeks. They've been really, really effective slowing down the run and kind of making some of these teams one-dimensional. And then, obviously you play the Chargers, and the Chargers have enough talent, to outgain and outpass the Bears regardless. But I was expecting this to be the type of Bryce Young game that gives him a lot of confidence, air it out a little bit, and kind of turn that corner a little bit, and give some light at the end of the tunnel for what's been kind of an ugly season for him, obviously. Especially as compared to a couple other rookies that are starting to show out a little bit here. So I was disappointed in Carolina's pass game there. They I think rightfully so, because it wasn't there. Didn't try to hammer the rock too much, but I thought they would be able to pass the ball a little bit more. And then as far as Chicago was concerned, they did run the ball fairly well. I thought they would give Roschon Johnson a few more opportunities. I was leaning towards over 20.5 rushing yards for him. He lands right at 18, so I was wrong about that one. But Foreman looked all right, did what they needed to do for Chicago. Obviously a game that was more about, the draft pick storyline was the biggest story out of this one. Carolina not having theirs. Chicago's got this one, and a Chicago win here obviously puts Carolina in a much, much tougher position to get out of that, get out of that dead spot. If it's not the number one pick at this point, almost guaranteed to be a top 5, if not almost guaranteed to be top 3 for Carolina. Obviously had a late surge last season. They're a team that, depending on what the locker room looks like, can't give up because they don't have their own pick, so that they're not, in the tankathon from that respect necessarily. So you have to expect them to give some effort. So they could surprise some teams down the stretch here. But the Bears obviously one of the bigger games on their schedule as far as the draft pick situation is concerned there that you want to win. So obviously I expect with the long week they get the Lions. They get the Lions. Next Sunday, I would think a good chance of getting Justin Fields back in that one. And they're probably, with the move to Montez Sweat, the way their defense has been improving, it's not a team that I don't think they're going to try and get themselves too much in that tankathon. They want to win some games with Justin Fields, see what they have in Justin Fields. So that's what I expect going forward there. And I would imagine he's back. And credit to Tyson Bagent for kind of keeping the lights on and not being a total embarrassment here for Chicago, especially as a rookie in a D2 school. So I think a guy who's obviously, again, not going to be a commodity as far as any real jobs are concerned, but probably going to make himself some money as a backup quarterback in this league based off the last 4 or 5 weeks from my measure here, whether that's here in Chicago or somebody else or somewhere else. So credit to him for that there. And aside from that, it wasn't a very exciting game to watch. I mean, like I said, Carolina gets their only touchdown off of a punt return touchdown early in the game, and then it was pretty damn ugly from that point, and some good field position. A few head-scratching ones. I mean, there was one, it's a day and age where obviously a lot of teams are going for it in fourth and short, but for a 1-7 team that was, I can't remember exactly what the score was. I think they were either down 3 or down 6 in the third quarter. I think if I'm not wrong, I could be off a little bit here. 4th and 4 in, at the Bears 45 or something like that. And yes, you wanted, the field position was a big thing in this game, but for a team that's, obviously has something to lose because they don't want the Chicago Bears to get their number 1 pick, but there was a couple cowardly punts from Frank Reich and company in this one here. So kind of questionable coaching regime right now for this Carolina team. I don't think it's one that's going to be completely washed necessarily here in any of the upcoming weeks, but it's one that needs to earn themselves some points here by winning a couple of these games and getting out of that cellar of the NFL here if they want to stick around past this year and into next year. So was pretty disappointed from a coaching standpoint in Carolina last night. But aside from that, I'm hoping and assuming we don't have too many more primetime games with 2 coming up in the future here.
Yeah, and I don't have the potential draft picks in front of me. Obviously, everyone talks about Caleb and Drake May. Obviously, everyone talks about Marvin Harrison Jr. It's not as easy as the Bears getting the 1st and 2nd picks, plug and play. They have so many holes on their offensive line. They have so many holes on their defense, but the addition of Sweat has already shown some improvement there. I go back to Cincinnati, the year they drafted Joe Burrow, and then the next year, the offensive, I think it was the left tackle from Oregon was available. And I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer here. And they take Jamar Chase, and which to me, I'm like, geez, you got a hurt quarterback already. You got to protect them. Well, I was wrong. They were right, obviously. But my point is, Chicago has a lot of work to do, because if you listen to the naysayers, if you listen to the so-called experts, Justin Fields isn't the quarterback. Therefore, you got to go and take Caleb Williams. Well, Caleb, after last week's game, jumping into the stands, crying with mom, there might be some NFL teams that might say, hey, can he handle the meteor of a Chicago? What happens if he loses 3-4 in a row? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm not playing professor mental health. I'm not doing anything. Right. Emotion's good, but again, some NFL GMs might turn the cheek. What can they get for Justin Fields in the open market? Could they draft Caleb and say, hey, Justin, we want to keep you here like a Mac Jones. We got you contract friendly here. We want you to start next year. We want to bring Caleb on slowly, or Drake May on slowly. And how does that work? So again, and then do they take a Marvin Harrison Jr., who's supposed to be a generational wide receiver, over the left tackle or a defensive stud? So a lot of stuff to go there, but hats off to the Bears. Their college basketball, NHL, the Edmonton Oilers absolutely suck. I'll just leave that there. We had the team total over against the Sharks. They not only don't get there, they lose to the Sharks. So look for something to happen maybe over the weekend in Edmonton there. Other than that, good recap. If there's anything else off the top of your head you want to talk about, we can go there, of course. NBA short slate. I did like the Pacers last night. Triple G, Giannis, did everything but, get the win, of course, there. Big slate in the NBA, big slate in college basketball, big, handful of college football games, Big Ten every which way but loose. So the stage is yours, my brother.
All righty, my friend. Let's get right into it for college football because the 2 games in NBA didn't have strong thoughts, but obviously that Bucks line was a little goofy there, and you had both teams off of back-to-back. Giannis essentially coming in as an angry participant after getting tossed the night before. So I was saw both sides of it, and both sides happened where the Pacers take care of business and Giannis goes for 54. So. Was an interesting one last night there in Indy there. But nonetheless, you said a lot of NBA. But we'll go into the Big 10 college football slate. We'll probably save the best for last. How's that sound? We've got the big game of the weekend in the early slate. We don't want to gas ourselves out and then finish with Michigan State, Ohio State. We'll save the best for last on the Big 10 board. How's that sound? So Let's see. Indiana, Illinois. Gotta pull up my switch gears here. Indiana at Illinois, the early window here. Illinois -6, 6.5, 44, 40.5 on the game totals here. You've got an Indiana team who these last 2 weeks, their best 2 weeks of the season, essentially here. The tough game against Penn State, they lose, but 33-24 as 31-point dogs. Follow that up with, and we were kind of, in the camp of watching for this Indiana team against Wisconsin last week, and Wisconsin's offense lays an egg essentially there. And Indiana gets a win. Now you have this Illinois team who the last 3 weeks has been playing a lot better football. 2-1 with the collapse against Wisconsin. So, for 3 of those 4 quarters, we're winning that game and then collapsed, obviously. Get the late win against Minnesota last week. So I think that's why you're seeing the 6.5 as the search for Illinois here at home. It's still a team that I'm not really interested in laying that many points with against really anybody here in the Big Ten. But at the end of the day, I think the perception of Indiana has changed a little bit here. So I'm kind of throwing my hands up on this one. Again, I'm not laying the points with Illinois in this one. I'm not really respecting the Indiana plus 6.5 also after what they've done the last 2 weeks here. But I think this one could go a lot of different ways. It wouldn't surprise me if Indiana won this game. Wouldn't surprise me if Illinois took care of business and Indiana laid an egg after the nice win last week. So I'm kind of throwing my hands up on this one. The team totals are kind of no man's land on both sides of it for this one from what I see there. So I guess I'll go with the lean of Illinois winning, but maybe by 3-4 points here and Indiana covers. That's kind of where I'm leaning.
Yeah, my true number was 6 with a 44.5. There are some 6.5s out there with a 44. I'm going to use the same thought process too. Anywhere that you can get a 6.5 by at least a half point, I would take it up to a full 7. I slightly Illinois trending up. I don't know what you're going to get from Indiana. I like Illinois to win. I don't think they cover the 7. I got this more as a 24-20 game. Vegas is telling me more of a 27-20. The assumption is your Indiana team total probably is rated 20. If they give you 19.5, they're probably baiting you, and maybe they get stuck on 17. For the Illinois side, again, are they at 24 in a hook? Are they at 26 in a hook? It's a game that, again, I'll take the 7 with beer and pizza money after buying the hook, but I don't feel strong either which way.
No, and you would hope that Illinois would have some sense of urgency because they're 4-5. I mean, if they lose this game, they got to beat Iowa and Northwestern to get that 6th win there. So obviously, you get this one, you got 2 chances to get your 6th win. Seems like we've obviously talked about that situation of these other teams in the Big Ten of this should be the spot where they need to get that win, so they don't have to worry too much down the stretch here. We saw what happened with Nebraska, obviously, last week, and a couple other teams here these last few weeks. So that's kind of what my feeling is. But like you said, nothing strong, and I'll lean towards Illinois at least getting the win here. So speaking of Nebraska, they are hosting Maryland. You have been pretty damn spot on these Maryland games these last 3-4 weeks. And you and I have also been fairly spot on, aside from maybe one of these Nebraska games the last few weeks. We've been pretty good with these Nebraska games lately. They obviously looked a lot better for a 3-week stretch defensively, 7, 9, and 14 points allowed, and then a bad loss at a floundering Michigan State team. Michigan State woke up, wins 20-17. Both these teams at 5-4 here. Maryland, the road favorite right now, 43.5 on the game total there. Team totals for this one, Maryland 20. I see some 21.5, some 22.5, and then Nebraska for the most part there is at that 20.5 number there. So, it's frustrating because you have a Maryland team who you and I joke about their basketball team, their football team and their basketball team kind of have the same MO and the same type of trends and paths that always kind of come up when you believe in them. They lay an egg. When you don't believe in them, they show up. Sometimes they lay an egg and then fly back. Sometimes they get a 20-point lead and they blow that 20-point lead. They are all over the place here. So I kind of lean towards a Maryland bounce back. I mean, they're on a 4-game losing streak here. Nebraska last week lost after the nice win streak Nothing strong feeling on this one by any means. If you like Nebraska, I wouldn't disagree with you too much here at all. But I will lean towards Maryland bouncing back after the 4-game losing streak here.
Yeah, I had a 2.5 with a 45.5. Again, that's the old, 23-21 game where they're trying to bait you 24-21. Just when you want to get on board with Nebraska, he had the biggest spot in the world, Matt Rule did, against a Michigan State team that was absolutely spiraling. You could tell early Nebraska was not the right side. Vegas is telling me Maryland is the right side. Again, if the Nebraska backers, if you had them at Michigan State, only 3.5-point favorites. Now they're at home against Maryland, and they're 2-point dogs. I would have respected Nebraska -2, 2.5. When Maryland's given me this, again, look for an inept Nebraska offense. Look for Maryland to get to that 24 number, 23, 24, maybe even 27. I don't think Nebraska crosses 20. This is a Maryland money line play for me, and another loss for Nebraska. And then you're going to be like, well, when are we going to get that win? When we going bowling? Well, it's not this Saturday, guys.
Not this Saturday, and I'd like their chances if Tanner Mordecai is still out. They've got Wisconsin at Wisconsin next week. That's obviously going to Wisconsin, a tough situation there, but. I'll say, loss this week and they get it done next week, depending on what, I guess we'll see what happens with Wisconsin this week, but that's where I'll go. I'll go, a loss this week and a win next week at Wisconsin. How about that? But, the other part about it is, their 3-game surge that they had is not exactly, there's no Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, or even, a good Rutgers, tough Rutgers team. It's, an Illinois team that had been really struggling at the time, a Northwestern team, and in my opinion, maybe not worse than Michigan State, but a Purdue team that's either, if not the worst, bottom 3 team in the Big Ten there. So credit to their defense. I do like their defense at times, and that's going to have to be the reason they would win this game is if they can make some turnovers. That's really the recipe here. But we're on the same page with this one, leaning towards Maryland there. All right, Rutgers and Iowa, a 28.5 on the game total. These Iowa team game totals, just when you say, man, that is one of the lowest totals I've ever seen each of the last 3 weeks. It is under 30 here. This is not a Service Academy game. This is in Kinnick Stadium, Rutgers and Iowa. A 6-win team and a 7-win team with a game total of 28.5, my friend. These are not 6 losses and 7 losses. These are 2 teams that are going to have a fairly respectable bowl game more than likely here. Iowa, a 10-7 win at Wrigley Field this past week as 5.5-point favorites. 10 points, obviously still an ugly performance. 10 points at home against Minnesota the week before that. Obviously a game that a lot of people thought they should have won. A nice win at Wisconsin, but only 15 points. So you've got the offense that we saw from last year since McCarthy goes down, but this defense is still very good, and that's why you got these team totals or the game totals matching. The Iowa team total is pretty damn similar to the opposing team total here in this one. Rutgers has shown a lot of good things. They're 6-3, kind of quietly the dark horse in this entire conference here. Obviously not good enough to beat Ohio State, Michigan. But a team that's kind of flown under the radar as having a really solid season here. So, you've got a 12.5 and a 13.5 on these team totals here. Maybe even 13.5 both ways on this one, depending on the numbers there. But Iowa -1.5 at home here. We've seen them have a few of these numbers where they are the short favorite at home. The Minnesota game that ended up losing. The Purdue game earlier in the year looked like one where that might be it was a stinky number. They ended up just taking care of business defensively there. So I will lean towards Rutgers, I think. But this is obviously an ugly one. I have all the respect in the world for Iowa's defense, and I think it's that they should give Rutgers offense a ton of issues, but Rutgers' defense is tough enough to give Iowa's offense enough issues here. So I don't want to say I think it's going to be another 10-7 game. I do think it could be in the more of the 17-14, 20-14 type range here, and maybe we do go over that 28.5. You can't hang that one low enough, and people are still going to be hammering the under on these Iowa games. I'll lean towards Rutgers and the over in this one, funny enough, here in Iowa.
Well, I was going to come out. Well, let me just give you the true numbers here. 28.5 with a 2.5. Now 1 with a 28 at circa right now. I was going to come on and say first 1 to 14 wins this game, but I'll even give you the exact blueprint here. 13-13, and someone's getting a walk-off field goal, lands 16-13, lands on 29, and it goes over. How's that sound?
That sounds exactly like what we're going to see here in this one. I cannot stop you at all. I would love to. In the past, I've loved to give myself a challenge as more of a entertainment and try and go on these unders, but it would be hard pressed to see another 10-7 game. But obviously, it's not out of the cards. But I like the 16-13. That or maybe you've got an overtime game where they go to the 2-point conversions, having to travel all the way back and down the field, and this is a 6-hour game, and it's 22-20, and they've each scored 4 extra points or something like that at overtime or something like that. I like the 16-13 prediction there. That one is it might find its way onto my TV just of the ugliness factor, but I imagine there's not a lot of people that are going to be watching this game here in the afternoon on Saturday. So, couple more afternoon games. Northwestern, Wisconsin. Talked about Wisconsin a little bit. Credit to Northwestern, obviously the off-field stuff early in the season, losing Fitzgerald. They've been obviously very scrappy, 4-5. Tough loss last week at Wrigley. Very close. Had a lot of chances to, win that game there. The great win against, I don't know if great is the right word, but a really good win against Maryland the week before. Tough, tightly contested defensive matchup against Nebraska the week before that. So they've been doing a lot better things as the season progresses, especially defensively there. Wisconsin, obviously, I've talked about them, and we've talked about them. Just not having the right offense. It was trending upwards with when healthy earlier in the year. We kind of had a perfect blueprint to what we talked about as far as a team that was going to start slow with Luke Fickell in the building. The offense was trajecting upwards, and then Tanner Mordecai goes down, and this offense has been ugly ever since. 14 or less in 3 of those last 4 games. If it wasn't for the fourth quarter surge against Illinois, they would have lost that one, and it would have been another one that was probably 14 or less if I'm being honest there. So an offense that I've been pretty low on the last few weeks here. But at home, 10.5-point favorites against Northwestern in a spot where kind of look yourself in the mirror spot, not only in the way the last few weeks have gone, but against a team where obviously they would consider as inferior to them here. So and trying to get that 6 win there. So as far as the spread, I do think it's a spot where this is typically been a spot where Wisconsin wakes up and puts the hammer down. I don't know if I like them enough to cover the 10.5 necessarily, but I do think they win. If not by a touchdown, it could be right around 10-14, kind of in that range there. So I will give Wisconsin the win here this week against Northwestern. I think their defense shows up and holds Northwestern down here. But I just don't know what to expect from their offense. Northwestern defense has had a nice surge here, so I'll go 21-13 Wisconsin win on this one this week.
I did smell some Northwestern a couple weeks ago. I'm looking at the true number 11 with a 43.5, down to 10.5 with a 41.5. I too, obviously leery laying double digits to any Wisconsin team. Not that I'm saying they're peeking ahead to Nebraska. This isn't the Nebraska of the 80s and 90s here. If I had to get into this game, I would ask you this question. The assumption would be, are they giving you the true carrot? And look at the Wisconsin first half number, 10.5. Are they giving you, the Ole 4.5, 5.5, or are they giving you the true 6, 6.5, and Wisconsin has to win the first half by 7 or better?
I see some 5.5s and some 6.5. Don't see any 4.5s, but I see some 5.5, 6.5.
I think you can get Wisconsin in the first half to win by a touchdown or better. If you got a 5.5 right now, I would pounce on that. If you got a 6, or the guys that are giving you the 6.5 are really making a statement. It's like that Michigan State basketball game last night. Again, they were 28-point favorites. Yet they were, 19 first half point favorites. Well, 19 plus 19 in my eyes is 38. They're telling me what they're expecting. I think you get a good surge, as you were saying, from Wisconsin early here. And it's a 3:30 start. It's not that high noon start. So I think the crowd will be, let's say, lubed up and ready to go. And I like Wisconsin, especially in the first half here.
Right. And honestly, from a takeout number standpoint, I would gun to my head on the spread. Again, I have no interest in laying 10 points or 10.5 points or even anything more than a touchdown with this Wisconsin team. But historically, this hasn't been a spot where they wake the hell up at home and take care of business here. So that's where I would lean if I had to do anything. But I love the first half thought there for sure there. So Minnesota Purdue, another one that I'm sure a ton of people are going to be popping up on their TV this weekend. Could have some points in this one, but you got Purdue at home, 2-7 at home against Minnesota, 5-4. 1.5 point favorites, 47.5 on the game total here, and obviously Purdue's season not going to be found bowling here. It's a team that I have been very low on most of the season, but they've gotten a lot of numbers that give a lot of respect to them. 2.5 point dogs at Iowa, lose by 6. Even 17-point dogs at home to Ohio State, they end up losing by 34. And then close to a pick 'em against Nebraska, lose by 17. And now, and obviously get the doors beat off of them by Michigan last year. Now back to a spot where they're favored at home against a 5-4 Minnesota team. From a matchup standpoint, I know I've been very low on this Purdue team. From a matchup standpoint, Minnesota's defense can do some good things. I think Purdue's offense isn't going to be totally dominated by this Minnesota team. I actually think they could move the ball a little bit here. And Minnesota's offense is an offense that can do some decent things against, some bad defenses. Not an offense that's going to be putting up more than, 28, 30 points or anything like that. So I do think this could be a close game and actually a good chance for Purdue to get one of these wins here. New coaching regime, first year. I don't think it's a situation where the, Purdue is going to be, kind of looking ahead to next season, punting on it in its entirety here. I do think there should be some pride from Purdue here. Obviously, you might know early if they're down 14-zip or something like that. That would be a rough situation there. But I do kind of lean towards Purdue actually getting their first. I think this is their first Big Ten win. Second Big Ten win. They beat Illinois earlier in the year. First win in a while though. That last good offensive performance was in that second half against Illinois, which was I think end of September 30th here. So it's been a while. But I think they wake up here, and I think I like them to go over. There's some 23.5, 24.5s, but it wouldn't surprise me if Minnesota's offense had a rough game here on the road here. So I'm just going to lean towards Purdue winning and putting up some points in this one against Minnesota.
I'm teeter-tottering here because my first look was, I expected a little more from Purdue, obviously, this year. My true number was a pick and a 47. Right now it's a 48 and still a pick. There are some Purdue -1s on the Vegas Strip and on DraftKings as we speak. Shout out to Mr. Russell Saylor. Thank you so much, sir. Glad to have you on board as always here. Big day as always on Fridays here at ECSI. Teetering back and forth where the more I listen, the more I think about it. I think the public would kind of flock to Minnesota. Minnesota here just needing to win the game. Vegas has got this one 24-23. I'd be more apt to look into some team totals here. Did they give you the Purdue 23 and a hook, or did they get cute there?
There's a lot of it depends on the book. There's 23.5s, but they're all juiced over. If it is 23.5, I see 120, 125, 130 even, and then I see a couple that have 24.5 at plus 102, 105.
Yeah, if I had to get into this game and you like the Purdue side, again, I don't like to lay the heavy juice here. And a perfect example is last night's game, the UL Lafayette game. There were some 30.5s juiced to the gills. There was some 31s juiced, and there was some 31.5s. Well, that game goes to overtime, 28-28. UL kicks a field goal at 31-28, and then Southern Miss comes and gets a touchdown and wins 34-31. And I see people putting out, I won the UL team total 30.5 over. I saw people put up, I won the UL team total 31.5 under. ECSI, I released to everyone 31.5 on the plus money. But I said there was some 31s out there. There was some 30.5s out there. Be careful on the juice. My point is UL Lafayette, not once but twice, had first and goal from the 2. They had 8 cracks, and they couldn't score either time. I'm not even talking taking the field goal. They tried for touchdown twice from the 1 and 2, and they couldn't score. So that should have flew over. So my point there is, I think Purdue gets over that 24.5. If you're feeling ballsy and want to lay the juice at 23.5, God bless you. If you got a flat 24, God bless you. But if you're seeing 24.5 at plus money, you got to get to 27. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think the Boilermakers and Drew Brees can get there this week.
I'm with you, and I've these Minnesota games. I've actually, this is one of the teams that I've these last few weeks had a decent read on, home and away here. You can put an asterisk on it if you want, because I guess I did have him in the Iowa game, and you could say Iowa should have ran that kickback, and I would have lost the plus 3.5 on Minnesota in that game. So you can put an asterisk on that one if you want. But had him game total under against Michigan State, and then had Illinois beat them last week there. So I'm with you. I think Purdue gets up over that, wins this game, and Minnesota's offense fall down a little bit. I think you could see this Purdue defense start to get a little more positive love here, and a little positive trend upwards this next few weeks here. Offensively, I mean, the other thing to say that I think where I agree with both of us here on the team total, they haven't scored more than 14 offensively the last 4 weeks, and now you're popping up 24.5. 2 of those games were Michigan and Ohio State. Another one is Iowa, who's one of the best defenses in this conference, if in the same category there, and then what you might say a hot Nebraska defense at the time there. So a Minnesota defense that, especially away from home, doesn't have as much success. I really like the Purdue side and getting over those points there. So last one before we get into the big one, Michigan State, Ohio State. Michigan State obviously gets off the ugly losing streak and takes down Nebraska last week, 20-17 there. Ohio State obviously 9-0, rolling right now. Played with their food a little bit at Rutgers. Got a nice turnover in that game. They didn't look back after that one there. 35-16 victory. Now 31-31.5. I haven't been getting into these, Ohio State games when they're up against these, lower ranked teams in the Big Ten here. I don't see any reason why Ohio State wouldn't put up a boatload of points here. They've got Minnesota next week, so not really a look-ahead spot necessarily there. 38.5 on the team total. Is that enough to, would you like to see that more against Michigan State? I don't know, but I don't see any reason to believe that they shouldn't put the hurt on this Michigan State team. Maybe they let themselves off the gas there in the second half, but I'm probably not going to find myself into this one, but obviously see no reason why Ohio State shouldn't take care of business here.
I had a 31 with a 47, now 32 with a 47. Again, we talk about style points. I still haven't sold or bought into this Ohio State team. Their defense has played great and their offense is getting better. This is usually the spot. Again, it's a 7:30 start. The crowd will be all lubed up. It's a night game. Let me play the game here. You said 38.5 was the team total there. I'll take it a step further. 38.5, that's 19, 20. I bet you they gave you, knowing how these guys work, did they give you 23, 24.5 first half team total?
First half team total, that one might be a little tougher for me to find here. Give me a second. I see one that's juiced way over at 21.5 on the first half team total there. Let me pull up another one to see if I can find it there. As far as the first half spread, I saw some 16.5, some 18.5s. The 18.5s would be a kind of a nice statement there. Let me see if I can pull up first half team total there for you. But I don't know, what were you asking for? If they gave you what?
Because if they're giving you a 38.5 and they're giving you a 19, 20, 21, that's a bullshit number. The carrot would have been like 23.5.
I see 21.5 on this other one here, minus 110. 21.5 for Ohio State in the first half there.
With a 38, you said full game?
Yeah.
It's still not that number I was looking for. Right. Wow. Yeah, I mean, you'll know early. Do they get out there? They get the 14 in the first quarter, 21.5 with the 38.5. It's still not a big enough statement for me, especially on a nighttime game in Columbus. So, I would like to say if you're getting plus money and you want to get into this game, you can do the full game over 38.5. My gut tells me they get to 23-24 in the first half. There, Michigan State living high off the hog after beating Nebraska. Now, obviously playing with house money, maybe they take it to the next level here. Again, I'm not sold on this Ohio State team. I'm really not. Now, here's the other carrot here. If Penn State shocks Michigan, we'll know because that's a 12 o'clock game. Ohio State sitting there saying, oh, shit. We got a chance here. We already beat Penn State. Let's really show the world what we're made out of because they'd be one win away in Ann Arbor to, almost guarantee, obviously, a Final Four spot.
100%. Yeah, and it really does seem like one, but without any of the factors you just mentioned, because that is important for sure. I mean, on top of the 38.5, you look back the last 3 years, 52 points scored, 56 points scored, 49 points scored for Ohio State between these two matchups here. So it kind of just feels like, a comfortable win for Ohio State, but, not really putting the hammer down. But if you get what you just talked about, I think you probably could see that. But, again, I'm with you as far as liking this defense, but not really being sold on much else other than, Marvin Harrison Jr., who, in my opinion, in my head on paper, without looking at any of this stuff, it's like how does he not go for 15 catches, 225 yards in this game against this defense? And maybe that's the only one, and they take everyone else away. I don't know, but there's nothing really that makes you really want to dive too deep into this one here, at least at this point here. So, all right, let's get into that the big game here. Michigan and Penn State, like you said, back at that 11 o'clock time frame there, my time, 12 o'clock your time. Michigan 4.5 point favorites on the road in Penn State here. Penn State 8-1. That one loss to Ohio State, 20-12. Who, if you remember, offensively was not good in that game. But you and I talked about it. It was a Penn State pick six with a late flag that was turned around completely in that game. Again, was it a fair flag? That's not really the question, but that was the turning point and the kind of the momentum shifter of that game 100% of the way there. And you got a Michigan team who looks fantastic, could make the statement that they are, or could make the argument that they are the number one team in the country, but obviously has not played a single opponent that makes you really, any type of respect towards any of their opponents really here. But you look back at last year, kind of not the exact situation by any means. I don't remember what the situation was at the exact point last year, but Michigan 7-point favorites at home, and they beat the doors off of them on the run game against Penn State here, 41-17 last year. Now you're sitting at 4.5, and this Penn State team, again, on paper last year, they were, I think, top 15 in the nation in rushing yards per attempt in the country, and got the doors beat off of them. They're number one in the country right now to the run, so they've obviously made an emphasis of trying to gear themselves up to stop the run in large part for this game right here, right now. Does that mean they're going to dominate the Michigan run game? No, it's probably not likely. It does seem like, and I don't think they're going to be dominated in the run game like they were last year by this Michigan rushing offense here. So it's a Penn State team that I, preseason liked a lot, was very high on them, was interested in them against Ohio State here. And it really kind of comes down to what are you going to see from Drew Aller in that offense? Are you going to see the same situation that they showed against Ohio State where they, are struggling to complete passes and can't really move the ball? Or, is that pressure going to be off and, kind of playing with, a little free movement here at home here in this one? Like you said, it is the earlier game. You might like it more if it was the afternoon night game with that type of atmosphere for Penn State. But I don't know where I'm leaning on the win. But I when I saw the 3.5 and the 4.5 with the way Michigan's been blowing the doors off of people and Penn State's loss 20-12 against Ohio State, it felt short to me as far as the number on this one when I initially saw it. That was kind of my gut feeling was that the number was short there. So I kind of, in accordance with that and my initial, thoughts on Penn State throughout most of the season, I kind of lean towards Penn State plus 4.5, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they win. You could have a Michigan field goal to win, 23-20, something like that, 24-21. The team total is 19.5, juiced way over, or 20.5 for Penn State, minus 108, minus 110 I see there, and then Michigan 24.5. on their team on this side of things. Where are you at? I'm leaning towards Penn State covering, but not necessarily hammering the money line or anything like that. But I'll lean towards Penn State covering this one.
Yeah, I've said all along, I thought that the schedule makers did Penn State dirty here. This has got to, at worst, be a 3:30 start. If not, this should be the game, game day. This should be the 7:30, 8 o'clock game, the whiteout game, the place rocked and electrified. I can just feel it right now, the walk-in, the march. Instead, they got it at 12 o'clock, and it's almost like, ho-hum, let's just get Michigan the win here and let's move on. The world will be ending if Penn State pulls up the upset with the Steele signing. And you could just see the crumbling start. Well, now there's Michigan, one loss. They finally played someone. They lose. They must not have stole the signs from Franklin, yada, yada, yada. So I'm leaning and rooting for Penn State. I really am. But you said something that piqued my interest, and I'll get right to it in a second. My true numbers was 5 with a 44.5, 24-20, 25-20, 24-19. But you said something that piqued my interest. Michigan team total 24.5. Most people will say if you like Penn State, you play the Michigan team total under 24.5. You get the 24-23, the 24-21, 24-20, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that just piqued my interest. Big if, I'll be at the BC Vatech game tomorrow morning. The second to last game other than the day after Thanksgiving and the Hurricanes coming to town. But my point is, if I dabble my toes into this, as much as I'm rooting for Penn State, as much as Michigan hasn't played anyone yet this year, I would play Michigan team total over 24.5.
Yeah, I can't hate on you for it by any means. And I think Michigan's offense will still have some success in this game. And the hesitation is really the Drew Eller and Penn State offensive performance when we finally saw it needing to show up. I assume they'll be better, but that is obviously something to watch there. So I'll double down with I'll agree with you, and I'll say Michigan 27, Penn State 24. How about that? That's where I'll go with my final score on this one.
I was going to say 27-23. How's that?
Okay, fair enough. Either way, that gets the job done. I like it. I can take that. Yeah. All right, that is it for the Big Ten slate, my friend. I am hoping that game is as awesome as I've been hoping it. It's obviously one of 3 games in the Big Ten schedule that you circle and are waiting for. And I think the atmosphere is still going to be awesome. I couldn't agree with you more as far as wanting it to be an afternoon game or especially a night game there. Let's see. I think the weather is going to be fair in that one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. 50 degrees, maybe 45 degrees. So kind of your average, nice November day there. So nothing crazy there. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit if you'd like, my friend. Big Ten basketball, a big slate of college basketball tonight with some really, really good games. One really good matchup in the a couple really good matchups in the Big Ten tonight, if not more than that. One that is more of a nationally watched game potentially here tonight. on top of one or two other really good games on the national schedule as well. We don't have to go into all of these games here necessarily, but we haven't talked too much Big Ten basketball other than the Michigan State situation so far. But you've got as far I know, we don't get too much into the AP poll necessarily, but for just reference purposes, you got the current number 15 team, Texas A&M. I think it's on the road, not a neutral site. On the road at Ohio State, who was obviously a very noteworthy team last year, of a team that should have been a lot better but just couldn't figure out how to win games at all last year. Now coming in as a favorite against that number 15 team in Texas A&M here tonight. You've got Dayton and Northwestern, who kind of one of the underrated under the radar games that could be a really nice one here on not only the Big Ten slate but the national slate. And then the evening, again, AP poll number 9 Tennessee team at a Wisconsin team. In Wisconsin, I was looking at. I don't think I'll make my way up there to Wisconsin tonight, but I wish I would have looked at that one a little earlier, and I might have tried to find my way to the Kohl Center for that one. That would have been a good one to go see there. So, nonetheless, as far as talking about a few of these teams, the other team that actually is the only one that, aside from Michigan State, that lost, Rutgers loses to Princeton earlier this week. They've got Boston U in a bounce-back spot as 22.5-point favorites there. But a lot of, the Big Ten as a whole here, obviously you've got Purdue at the top with Zach Edey coming back. I don't think they're in action tonight, but you got Michigan State there, who was a projected top 10 team. Illinois, another team that was given some respect per the AP poll. But a lot of teams that there are probably going to be a lot of tournament teams here, but you're you got a lot of options to pick from of teams that could rise to the occasion and surprise people and be a perennial top 25 team. And then you've got a few teams that could end up being disappointed and kind of fall down to the pack like we saw from Ohio State last year. I think there's going to be I don't think it's going to be Ohio State, but I think there's probably going to be one or two teams that look like that Ohio State teams that had a lot higher hopes here. So it's going to be a really, really interesting season. Not as top-loaded as we've been in the past here in the Big Ten. Obviously, there's some other conferences that have a lot deeper teams that are going to be in the mix here. But it is a conference that's still got a lot of tough teams for sure here. No easy nights in the Big Ten this year, it looks like. Let's start with that Ohio State game, my friend. Texas A&M, Ohio State. Ohio State 1.5-point favorites. I don't remember what their record exactly was last year, but it was obviously a team that was respected in certain areas that we trust and love, and then on the win column just couldn't quite get it done in most cases here. So a lot of returning faces here for Ohio State that it gives you a reason to believe in them. As far as seeing them favorites after only a 6-point win as 19.5-point favorites, you look over, Texas A&M took care of A&M. I don't know what team that is. A&MC, Corpus Christi, maybe someone else. I don't know. 21.5-point favorites, and they cover here. Now coming in Ohio State. Are we getting the Ohio State resurgence? I'm not saying I'm hammering them tonight necessarily, but I want to believe in this Ohio State team to make a statement tonight and earn some respect and trust back tonight.
That Ohio State team, when you started on the intro, I was going to use the Jekyll and Hyde because every time we thought there was a good spot for them, they couldn't close the deal. Every time that we thought this was, let's fade them, they played well. I'm trying to bring up one of our sources here. I apologize. I didn't get them up in time. Hold on one second. Let's get them up here. All right. Our buddy, Mr. Ken Pomeroy, if you're not subscribing to Ken Palm, I think it's $23 for the full year. So whenever the day you sign up, you get a full year of service. And I love him to death. Projected game scores. Ohio State, he's got ranked currently 46th. Texas A&M 21st. He's got a 70-69 Ohio State win in Columbus. My true number was A&M favored by 1 with a 138. It's Ohio State now minus 1.5 at Circa with a 138.5. I would lean Ohio State money line tonight if you like the Buckeyes. I think it's going to be a great game. Aggies caught fire for us in one spot last year. I think we were able to nail them like 3, 4, 5 times in a row. They just were flying under the radar. This is a big game in my eyes for Ohio State. Again, a team last year, a lot we're expecting a lot of. We didn't get to see that. Good, formidable SEC Aggies team coming in. Again, per Ken Palm, 21st with the A&M, 46 with Ohio State. He's got a barn burner 70-69. I'm going to flip it. I won't lay the 1.5. I'll just play the money line, probably at around minus 122, 123. But I'll take the Buckeyes late. What did I have for a 138? I'll go Buckeyes 73-69. How's that?
I like it, and I mean the perception of this team is it wasn't. I mean the perception of this team is that it was a bad Big Ten team last year because they had. I mean, shoot, they even had a nice non-conference schedule. Their 3 losses in non-conference last year was a San Diego State team that obviously made a a hell of a name for themselves last year. Duke and North Carolina. And then, nobody was writing them off because those are 3 tough losses, obviously. And then they go on 1-14 or something like that stretch in Big Ten play, and they bury themselves. But then they go beat Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan State to get to the conference semis in the Big Ten tournament. So it's a team that was not as bad as their record suggests. They were a losing team, but not as bad as their record suggests. So I'm with you. I think it is a big game for Ohio State. They obviously want to put that stink behind them and make a statement here tonight. So. Let's see. The other one, we can talk about a lot of these if we want, but Tennessee, Wisconsin is another interesting one here. Not necessarily making or breaking them tonight, but a Wisconsin team that missed the tournament last year. Had a nice run on the NIT, but missed the tournament there last year. Opened up the season with a nice 30 or so point win against Arkansas State earlier this week, I believe. Tennessee, same thing, taking care of business. A lot of respect for them coming into this season. This is whether or not this game not necessarily make or break against Tennessee here, but this season could be make or break for Greg Gard in Wisconsin as it's concerned there. I mean, you've had a team that similar makeup in a lot of ways to what you had with the 20 years or so, whatever it was with Bo Ryan. But it was the year after they lost the championship with Bo Ryan. Bo Ryan hands the reins over after a few weeks into the season to Greg Gard, kind of what seemed like a calculated succession plan to kind of take it out of the administration's hand, give the job to Greg Gard. Greg Gard gets to the Sweet 16 that year and the following year with Bo Ryan's guys, and ever since he hasn't been able to make it to the Sweet 16 in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years or so here. So, but with a similar situation where you had a lot of teams where they get that experience, and you expect them to take that next step up and be that, well-rounded Wisconsin team. And they haven't been bad by any means, but they just haven't been, striking that same fear that those Bo Ryan's teams would by the time you had those, 3rd and 4th year players. And now you have another season where you have a lot of guys coming back, a team that just missed the playoff or just missed the tournament, had a nice NIT run. And so if they don't make the tournament, I think Greg Gard is gone after this year. If they make the tournament and lose in the first round, I think Greg Gard is gone. So, barring a top 5 seed or something like that and a big upset or something like that, I think they have to make this a really, really successful season for Wisconsin here. We mentioned Ken Palm, giving a lot of respect to them early in the season here. I think they're top 20 right now per Ken Palm. So a team that, if you haven't been paying attention to them and if you're just looking at them as last year, you're probably not expecting them too much from them. But I think you're going to see there's a lot of guys that are growing and made some progression last year. So I'm kind of meeting in the middle. I think they are going to be a lot better, and I think they do make the tournament here, and they are potentially a team that could be, dark horse team in this conference. To give Greg Gard credit, I think I think they were the Big Ten regular season champs during the COVID year, so that one was his chance to say, here's my team that's going to make a nice run in the Big Ten, the NCAA tournament. He didn't get that chance, and without that chance, it's obviously, he's got to make another push here. So I do think this could be the team that is that dark horse team to I think they could be, again, not saying we care about the AP top 25, but from a measuring stick standpoint, I think they kind of need to be, a consistently top 25 team during this year to give Greg Gard a lot of respect here. So more of a preview for the season than this game necessarily tonight, but just wanted to point out that this is a big, big season and obviously a big start to that season here against Tennessee tonight at home against that Tennessee team. Does that translate any love for them tonight for you against Tennessee, or you think maybe they play a tough game and, like I said, not necessarily make or break, but a good early season measuring stick for them here tonight?
Oh, it absolutely is. Tennessee is a wagon. I talked to a lot of experts that think this is definitely a Final Four potential net cutting Tennessee Vols team. Gonna be up near the top, if not on the top, in the SEC. Kind of interesting here, where my true number here had that one at Tennessee -1 with a 138.5. It's up to 2 and 2.5. Down to a 132.5. Ken Palm has Tennessee ranked 9th, Wisconsin 16th. He has Wisconsin 70-68 here. So again, he likes the Big Ten. He liked them against A&M. He likes Wisconsin against Tennessee. My first initial thought was first 1-70 wins this game. I love the Vols. I do, but I'm just crunching numbers and looking at this. This Tennessee team plays right into Wisconsin hands. Now, we're not back into, 25-24 at half, first 1-50 wins. I'm not saying that. If they get into an up and down scoring battle, I lean the Vols here. I think they're more athletic. I think that they're a little tougher in the middle. But again, this is a statement game for Wisconsin. I think they're a live home dog. I'll go on record. First 1-70 wins this one, and I'm not going to give out a winner here. I'm rooting for the Vols. I really like the Vols team this year. I do. But if you had to say, Jeff, you need to pick a winner here. Again, first 1-70. I'll go 70-68 Wisconsin. How's that?
It sounds good to me. Like you said, I want to see it from this Wisconsin team because I mean, it's kind of been the MO of those Greg Gard teams where it's like, all right, this is the year where this team's going to be that dark horse and show up, and then they end up looking like the exact same team from last year. It's the biggest difference between Greg Gard and Bo Ryan so far is the progression of these teams. So I kind of want to see it before I actually put my money on it, if I'm being honest with you. But I'm with you as far as believing that this Wisconsin team show up. I think, it hasn't been bad at home by any means, but a team that both in football and basketball has gotten so much respect for their home court advantage, not only to make a statement for the season, but to make a statement at home here, I think is obviously going to be pretty important to them. So I will lean with you to Wisconsin, but I want to see it first. I do want to see it first, if I'm being honest with you. Let's see. Anything else that you wanted to talk about or that we want to talk about here? I mentioned Rutgers, Boston U. Dayton Northwestern, like I said, a kind of an underrated, under the radar game there. Northwestern 5-point favorites now at home. You get the return this year of Boo Buie, the star for Northwestern there. So another kind of a dark horse team, but not really in that upper echelon necessarily. Not going to be I would be surprised to see them as any type of top 5 or 6 team in the seed in the NCAA tournament, but a big season that could get them in the tournament. Also could, like I said, could be a team that where you expect them to take a nice jump with the guy like Boo Buie and company there. Could be a team that falls to the pack a little bit here and is a little bit of a disappointed season potentially. I'm kind of on the offensive leaning towards them. Maybe being a little bit more of a disappointment as compared to the expectations. I think they'll still be good and have some nice wins, but not respecting them to make that big jump and be that top 4 or 5 team in the Big Ten this year. I think they could be. And this isn't me trashing Northwestern by any means. This is if the Big Ten is very, very deep. I guess I'm going on record and predicting them to be, in that bottom 5 tier of the Big Ten necessarily here is kind of where I'm going with this one. So, could they win tonight? Absolutely. But maybe I'll lean towards Dayton tonight in Northwestern here.
The on that game, he's got Dayton ranked 67th, Northwestern 49th. He's got Northwestern 68-62, 70% chance of winning. The Dayton Flyers, I don't want to say have been a Jekyll and Hyde team for us, but no pun intended here, been flying under the radar with us for a couple of years now. Pick our spots. Northwestern, we had some good runs with them last year. I'm going to play the wait and see game here with Northwestern, and I think that the number's pretty spot on there. Riley, I did want to say this, and it's kind of unfair, but this is going to be the national concept, the national thought process with the Big Ten this year is what Purdue did last year and their rankings. A lot of people weren't buying in on Purdue and Zach. The fact is, some people didn't even think they deserved the overall number one ranking going into the tournament. And of course, losing to the number 16 team last year. So unfortunately for the Big Ten this year, it doesn't matter if Purdue cheats and wins every game by 30, it's going to be, well, what are you going to do in the tournament? And I think social media, especially the trash on Twitter, the cesspool on social media, is just going to be nitpicking, not just Purdue, but the Big Ten. Of course, you come out, think about it this way. You had Purdue, the number one ranked team in the country last year with Zach. Zach returns. You lose the first game, a 1-16. So what do? You got the number 4 team in the country with Michigan State on Monday, lays an egg. So it's going to have to be put up or shut up. In other words, you're just going to have to go in, put the cotton in the ears, and just go out there and play basketball.
100%. No, I couldn't have put it any better, especially that Michigan State is so far the cherry on top of that public perception so far for it right now. And tonight could be. I think tonight is a good factor of the at least those couple of games that we talked about where the actual AP ranked teams are maybe on upset watch, or even obviously in Ohio State. Ohio State is a favorite, but you know what I mean. Perception wise, still going to be an upset there potentially there. So interested to see. And yeah, from a Purdue standpoint, there obviously seems like they could look like the exact same team as last year. But if they can, their 3-point shooting around Zach Edey to go from, I don't remember what it was percentage-wise, but it was not good, especially for what you need there. If they can go from bad to even middle of the pack in the country, it could be a really, really, really dangerous team who obviously was, a top 3 team in the country last year. Could be a team that actually is really, 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 really hard to beat for anybody, let alone obviously some of these Big Ten teams here. So that is a big if. They are a very similar team. They could be, struggling the same way they were around Edey shooting. But like I said, even if they can be middle of the pack shooting threes, they're going to be, once again, top 3 team for sure in this country. And even if not, they could be up there. So. But like you said, yeah, they've got it's going to take a while for them to prove it. Even if Ohio State and Wisconsin win tonight, it's obviously going to be getting some respect, but not changing the entire landscape of perception for this conference and some of these teams here. So it's an important season, obviously there from a public perception standpoint, you would say.
100%. It's been a while since the Big Ten have cut the nets down. I don't see Magic Johnson. I don't see, a few of these other guys walking through the big dog himself from Purdue. The Illini crushed there back in the heyday. By the way, Illinois did beat Tennessee in an exhibition game. So keep your eyes on that. It's kind of comical. Now they got to open up against, yes. Kansas. Yes. I was thinking Tennessee, I thought got knocked off by someone in an exhibition game. So the Big Ten will be kept, will be under the microscope, let's say, most of, if not all the year this year.
Yep. And Illinois gets a good one next week. I don't know if it's neutral or at home. They Marquette. It's at home against Marquette next week. That'll be a great measuring stick for both of those teams there. As far as Illinois preview, I'm not sure what to expect from them. You kind of need Terrence Shannon, who comes back, and that's a lot of the reason why they're getting some respect, to be a little more consistent. He obviously had a lot of those games where he was the reason why they won, and then there's a lot of games where you pull it up and they're down by 10.5, and he's got 5 points on 1 of 6 shooting, or even 2 or 3 shooting, or something like that. So if he's taking over these games for start to finish, then and successfully, then they're going to be as good as they're projected to be there. So interested to see how the Illinois season goes. I think it could be pretty similar to last season. They got a lot of guys got some growing up to do. Lose a couple guys, get a nice transfer situations. Not a make or break season for Brad Underwood by any means because he's turned around the program. But as far as getting that extra level of respect, if he can maintain being a top 15 team, be a top 3 in the Big Ten, he's going to get a lot of respect for himself. Like I said, even if they're flat out bad, Brad Underwood is safe. He has brought this program back to relevancy from being either mediocre to bad for the last 10, 15 years. So his job is safe pretty much no matter what, but it could at least earn that extra level of respect if they are as a top 15 team or anything along those lines here this year.
No, I agree.
All right. Anything else to talk about, my friend? I mean, we could talk about a couple of these national games. Arizona Duke obviously is a big one. Let's see. What else do we got? That's obviously the biggest one. San Diego State BYU, obviously a nice one there. UCF Miami maybe, but obviously Arizona Duke is a big one. Any of these other, whether it's any of these Big Ten games or any other national games that you want to talk about right now?
Well, I'll just add one Big Ten game. The Twerps play Davidson. No Steph Curry on the Davidson side. We know Maryland on Friday nights. That's always been an adventure for us. Ken Palm's got Maryland at 30th this year. Davidson at 153. Maryland, he's got winning 75-63. So keep an eye on the Terps there to see how they come out of the gate. Going over to Arizona Duke. The funny thing about this, of course, is it's in Cameron. So it's the Cameron Crazies. It's not on a neutral court. It's in Cameron. He's got Duke ranked 8th, Arizona 6th. He's got Duke 78-75 with a 153 there. And I'm seeing Duke as high as 5 right now. That's a popcorn game for me. That'll be fun to watch those two teams go up and down there. Let me see. That's 150, 153 he's got there. And I think the total, where is that one? 1 second here, Riley. I got it at 153. It's up to 154.5. So a little money was trickling in on Arizona. It's all Duke right now, up to 5.5 there. A good game, Virginia against Florida on a neutral field court. I had Virginia -2 on our number with a 136. It's down to 1 with a 135.5. Ken Palm's got Virginia winning 70-68 there.
Man, Florida has been. You talk about banana in the tailpipes. The last 2 years of Florida, that is my biggest banana in the tailpipe college basketball team. Each of the last 2-3 years, for God's sake.
Yeah, they are so tough. I know a couple times we went against them and they couldn't miss. We grabbed them and they couldn't hit. So that was definitely comical. There was one other game I was going to quickly talk about. Where were my eyes there? I think I lost it. I picked up on the Maryland game. You talked about the BYU game, San Diego State. That's a good game flying under the radar. Ken Palm actually had BYU sneaking that one out. I'll pull that up right now as Fenway is going crazy here. He had BYU winning by 1 or 2, and of course I can't find it now, so I won't delay you there. Big slate, huge slate. It matches the Monday night slate there, so full of action. Obviously, we're already an hour 20 in. I don't want to, harp on anything. So what I'll do is we were talking and stressing Big 10 football, Big 10 basketball here. Is there any games that catch your eye, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, NBA tonight, or even college football that you wanted to break down, or, again, the ball's in your court?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. One NBA game tonight that caught my eye a little bit here. Again, it's a team that I've said I have no interest. I'm still waiting to see what they do. But based off what they've done the first two nights of their current fresh situation going on, the number was interesting and surprising to me. The NBA, this is another night of these in-season tournament games. So these, most of the players are probably – there's not going to be any surprise injury news as far as I'm concerned. I would be surprised to see. But you've got the Clippers' ugliness that has happened the first two nights with James Harden in town. Terrible offensive performances for the Clippers. They're now 1-point dogs to Dallas, 6-2 Dallas at Dallas. Not only that, with a 234.5, 236 in the 230s when Clippers 97 and 93 points these first two nights. So maybe it's one of the other there, but I think the Clippers offense at least looks better tonight. It still is a little gross with that situation that's been going on there, but I'll say the Clippers show up a little bit more tonight, and whether that's maybe I might prefer their team total as opposed to their spread or money line there, 117.5 I think it is. But I think the Clippers wake up offensively tonight. That was the one NBA game that kind of caught my eye a little bit there. And then even the later, we keep talking about the Sacramento team. Still no De'Aaron Fox. But with what they've done this week and last week and a half, they did beat Portland, but win by 3 as 8-point favorites at home here. To an OKC team that obviously has got a lot of love for them, and they're 5-3. Only 2-point dogs, 1.5-point dogs to that OKC team was also another one that was a little kind of caught my eye a little bit there for the NBA tonight. Those were the two there. I'm trying to think what else we have, or what else did I see in the college football? But those were the two NBA games tonight that caught my eye, at least tonight.
Well, strictly from an eye test, again, this was usually a good spot for us on a Friday night special with the Pistons, like OKC, catching 9 against a Philly team that is rolling. Lost the first game of the year. I think they've now won 6 in a row. They've covered all 6. They just come off the Celtics win, yet they're 9-point favorites on the Pistons. Keep your eyes on the Pistons. Charlotte overnight 1.5-point favorites at Washington with a 242. Well, there's been a flip. You can go to Circa right now and get the Wizards minus 2.5 for the 240. Take a look at the over there. And if you like the game, to me, it would be a Washington money line play or nothing there. T-Wolves only 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. Looks a little smelly to me at San Antonio. Look for a bounce back from Wembayamba and a disappointing effort that he had at the Mecca a few days ago. I too, the Clippers did catch my eye, and money is coming in on the Clippers. I think the Clippers get the bounce back there. I look for them to wake up. A 6-2 Dallas team, only 1-point favorites. I like where your eyes are there on the Clippers. And I'm going to say the same with OKC. I had an OKC with a 2.5, and you're talking Sacramento. I know the Kings last year, big there. Fox not here. But to me, it's kind of an eye-opener that OKC was favored. Am I correct or incorrect there?
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying, and I like you said, we keep talking about this Kings team as getting that public love and kind of the fan favorite team. But without De'Aaron Fox and the way they've played, I think they've kind of lost that quickly here, and I don't think that's the case tonight because if this was a different team that they were playing, it might be a different situation. But OKC is another team that is also a team that the public kind of loves in a lot of different spots as well there. And I think when you got that against a Sacramento team that's kind of struggling right now without De'Aaron Fox, I don't think there's as much love for this Kings team, sans Fox, as opposed to a healthy OKC team essentially here.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that. And then, of course, the Lakers, Phoenix, 3.5 of the 222.5. It's Friday night, guys. We can't stress this enough. Fade the public. It's payday. You talk about the two bullseyes on their backs, of course. KD, LeBron. I don't even know if AD's playing. Obviously, don't know what's going on with Booker, yada, yada, yada. I had a 3.5 for the 222.5, still 3.5 for the 225. First one to 115 probably wins this game there. So that's about it on the NBA, sir. Anything Saturday or in the NFL you wanted to get off your chest?
What was your thoughts on this Oklahoma State football number? 2.5-point favorites at UCF, 4-5. I mean, is that too good to be true? A stink that's too good to be true, or is that a legitimate OKC on upset watch here?
Okay, upset alert. Don't forget, just won the last Bedlam game. A UCF team that was doing well early has kind of faded. I definitely live home dog there with UCF.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it obviously stinks. It was that one where it's even a 3.5, 4.5 seems like it would have been a stinky low one, and now we're all the way down to 2.5. Almost smacks you in the face with how stinky it is there. So that one was obviously one that jumped out there. Maybe even Texas Tech, Kansas, another one, kind of 3.5 at home for Kansas, who's 7-2 now, up against a 4-5 Texas Tech team who has got just bounced back with a win against TCU. But that one also was a little stinky to me with Kansas at home there as 3.5-point favorites.
And great eyes again, Riley. And I agree. Again, you're either all in on Kansas or not. I picked a couple spots to go against them. I think we split. I had them 1 week and we won. The eyes are telling me definitely it's a Texas Tech number, plus 3.5, plus 4. A little beer and pizza money on the outright. A Kansas team that's rolling 7-2, and big futures ahead of them. I would have respected a 5, 5.5, 6 number versus a 3.5, 4 number.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I had their team total over in that Oklahoma win, and then even last week 2.5. It was on the road at Iowa State, but that one felt a little short. They handled business, and now you get another one, kind of that situation where this one feels like they could fall. I feel like there might have been one more in college football, but I'm drawing a blank. Actually, the one I wanted to talk about doesn't feel like necessarily a stinky number, but a team that whenever you disrespect them and don't give them respect, they show up over in the Pac-12. 9-0 Washington hosting Utah, 8.5, 9-point favorites. Any love for this Utah team showing up and kind of putting some physicality in this game and keeping it close?
The true number was 9.5, 10. There was only one way this number could go, which was down. A Washington team that after the Oregon win was playing with their food for 2 weeks, goes into USC, a hard-fought first half, good second half, 52-42 winner. Utah doesn't have the ammo to keep up offensively against Washington, but they definitely have the defense to slow Penix Jr. down. I think you get a good, strong first half from Utah. If you like Utah, make sure you play the first half as well, because you're going to know early here. I'm rooting for Washington. I still think they got at least one loss until the Oregon game there. But I have no problem people taking Utah here, none whatsoever. I like the defense. I just offensively, you can't go to Washington and say, all right, first one to 31 wins. This has got to be that 27-24, 27-23 game. If Washington gets into the 30s, I don't think Utah has a shot.
No, I'm with you. And the other factor, if they were coming off of that Oregon loss, Utah, I'd probably like them here. But you're looking at a 55-3 absolute shellacking of Arizona State and Utah's last case, giving some respect back on them, and now you're over a touchdown dog. Didn't pique my interest as much, but it's still a Utah team that is a team that can show up and smack you in the mouth. So I'm like kind of on the same thing. I wouldn't hate anyone that's taking Utah, but I probably am going to leave it on the table for myself there. But not any thoughts on it necessarily. We've already talked about it. I think maybe last week we talked about it and kind of teased it a little bit. But Pac-12 also, Oregon over a 2-touchdown favorite at home against USC. You obviously have been vocal about your respect towards Oregon. And this one, the game total 76.5. But Oregon's defense has been really solid. Any thoughts that this one's going flying over the total, or is this going to be kind of closer to the situation that USC saw when they faced Notre Dame, where in that case Notre Dame puts up 48, close to a 50 burger, and USC's offense can't really get itself going in this one?
The true number on this I saw was 17, and I thought it was a misprint. I mean, listen, my love affair for Oregon. USC, everyone thought was going to upset Washington last week. That was the public trendy dog. That was the sharp play. great first half and just ran out of gas in the second half. Now you got to try to bounce back to go into Eugene and keep up with this Oregon team. It's not happening. I like the Oregon team total. I think over 44.5. I think Bo and company is going to want to make a statement. The former Heisman Trophy winner Lincoln Riley coming to town as well. This is our year. Better luck next year. Yada, yada, yada. For me, this is all Oregon all day.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would be surprised to see an upset in that one there for sure. So that was it for college football. I think that I had mostly. I'll a couple quick thoughts in the NFL. Tennessee Tampa is one. The total being as low was kind of surprising to me because Tampa defense is obviously not playing well. Tennessee doesn't do as well against the pass, and obviously this Tampa offense has got a lot of work to do to get back in a good rhythm there. They did score 37 points last week, though, so I'm probably not playing anything there, but I kind of lean towards Tampa putting together a better all-around performance in this one, and I kind of just like the matchup on paper. Again, it's definitely one that could be a coin flip. What are we going to see with Will Levis in this one now with a full week of preparation, over a full week of preparation, actually, last Thursday night game. So, and if Vrabel is a coach of this Tennessee team, is a team that has had a lot of success when they've got extra time. So I'm kind of wishy-washy on it. But I was kind of surprised to see the total as low as it was. What are you going to see in Josh Dobbs in week 2? In the full prep and starting situation at home against New Orleans. With respect to him, I mean, we did see him a lot. So I'm kind of pumping the brakes on Josh Dobbs a little bit in this one and saying maybe the Saints defense and offense can have some good graces on this one. I don't know if we lost Jeff Dawson or not, but nonetheless, we are kind of at a point of wrapping things up anyways. So not sure if he'll pop back in or not here, but we can wrap things up. I didn't have too many other NFL thoughts on that one, but I would at least say buyer beware on the Josh Dobbs experience at home in Minnesota as short favorites there against the Saints. But we'll see if he pops in as I'm signing us off here. But this has been a very fun show. Obviously, an hour and a half talking a lot of majority Big Ten football and basketball. So a lot of fun as always on these Friday mornings. We'll keep it rolling the next few weeks. Internet crash for Jeff Dawson, so I'll wrap it up here. And beyond that, obviously a fun weekend. Jeff's going to have, I assume his internet will be fine, and he's going to have these other shows going on the rest of the day here. So stay tuned for that, my friends. We're going to have some fun this weekend with a lot of his action and tonight. So hope everyone has a fantastic evening, fantastic weekend. Stick around all day long for these ECSI shows that we've got going on. Going on over to WagerWire here and download that and get yourself accustomed to that fine app there and those fine people over there. So thank you all for stopping by today. A lot of fun today, and hope you all have a fantastic Friday afternoon today, my friends.